welcome back to Cards and Comics. I have a very short but cool mail day on something that I don't normally post about, which is Magic the Gathering cards. And just like Rudy, I'm going down with the ship with vintage cards because in reality, I only care about cards that were made from the time period I really played the game, which is like through Ice Age. And during that time period, you still, the four horsemen sets, um, expansion sets of Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends. Those were the big ones, right? So to me, and you can throw the dark in there, but I don't really consider the dark to be a huge set, but you know, really Antiquities, Arabian Nights, and Legends is kind of like where my love for the game really lies, along with Alpha and Beta and Revised. That's really the cards I want. So there was a collector that sold basically his whole collection, and I was able to pick up a few pieces, and they're all older graded because back in the day, all Magic cards at one point were graded by Beckett. That was sort of the first company to grade Magic cards. They took off in Beckett grading, and so when you buy an old collection that's been graded of Magic, you're going to get Beckett cards. You're not going to get PSA. And I'll start here with some of the commons I picked up because I'm building an Arabian Nights set. So I picked up the Flying Man. And again, in Arabian Nights, you got two versions of all the cards, for the most part in common. So there is a 9 Flying Man. And you'd be surprised how much, even commons come in the set, especially useful commons like Flying Man. This card was heavily played back in the day. And I know what you're thinking, like, why are you collecting Magic? You collect too much other crap. Like, what's going on? But I played Magic a lot in college. I played at Cornell University. We had a club, a gaming night. And so instead of going out on dates and having a social life, I would go on Fridays to the gaming club and play Magic. Especially after my sophomore year, when I realized that without a car, it was going to be very difficult to go on dates. And I'm from Oklahoma, so I was never going to have a car in New York. Just it wasn't logistically going to happen. So that really shut down the dating pool for me in college, pretty much, like taking girls on dates on a bus. Just not cool. And at the time, Cornell was felt like it was 2-to-1 guys to girls. So girls had a lot of options. And if you had a car, you were definitely higher in the pecking order. So I would spend my Fridays playing Magic, and these sets were the ones I loved and looked for at the time. And so here's another common. This is Dan, which didn't see a lot of play because he killed, you had to have islands to attack with it. So it's just not a very useful card. Easy to kill too. It's like a 4/1. So, back in the day, power creep was not an issue. In fact, there's so many cards that were considered hugely powerful in this time period that would be considered basically weak. I think in recent set, Savannah Lions was issued as a common, where that used to be a Legends or that used to be like a beta rare. So it's Savannah Lions is now a common, where it used to be a rare, and it used to be how powerful a Savannah Lion used to be, right? Urg Raiders, I played this card a lot. To 2/3, played it a lot because it's 2 mana. You can Dark Ritual it out, Unholy Trinket, and you got a 4/4 dude, who you always have to attack with, but 4/4 on turn 1 is pretty dang cool. And then if you do another Unholy or Feast of Unicorn or something cool off of it, you can make a pretty big card pretty quick. And if you're playing black back in the day. So this card did see a lot of play for my deck early on. Later in my Magic career, I realized there's other cards better than this. And for my weenie black horde that I played at first, and then I evolved from just straight black to black, red, blue as I got Moxes, and as I got dual lands, and was mixing in different colors to protect against other decks, because straight black was pretty weak against like a white deck or a blue deck. So it was something that you had to evolve. But there you go, just a really cool common again from Arabian Nights, and then the common that kind of I think is kind of the entire flavor of Arabian Nights is Camel. A 0/1 banding creature. I don't think banding's a thing anymore. And a friend of mine played a whole deck that was just camels. So it was just fun. So, back in the day when we were silly, we just do whatever we want. And I remember this card being a card that I played against a few times because it was just in a silly deck that we put together for fun. Or my friend did. So these are, high grade commons, but, not breaking the bank, but they still were something because, again, Arabian Nights is the first expansion set for Magic and still worth quite a bit. Now, here is, it's an uncommon, but it's really considered a rare based on how the set was designed. And this is Singing Tree. And I've never actually owned a Singing Tree. I've owned a few other rares from the set. I've owned the I've owned the library. I've owned the Jusm. I've owned, a lot of the rares, but I've never had a Singing Tree because I never played green, and it didn't seem like that powerful. Tap to reduce an attacking creature's power to 0. Again, back in the day, this might have been considered a really cool card just because there wasn't a lot of creature, destruction spells if you're playing green. Besides like Tornado or Desert Twister or something like that. But it was, again, a time period where the power creep hadn't happened yet, and cards like this were effective, early on. But it's a rare, and it's a cool looking card. So it definitely has always had a certain amount of value to it. And I like the fact that it's one of the, I won't call it the best rares, but it's on the list of like cool rares to find from the set. So it's not just worth nothing. Now, next up from the set is probably the best artwork in the entire set. I mean, Sorcerer's Queen is definitely a big card from a design perspective. But, a lot of people think this card has the best artwork in the set. Shahrazad, sorry. It's a cool card. Now, it has tons of flavor text. You wouldn't see this again, but it's a card that people love. It's still got some good value. It's an 8/5. It's not a 9, but still, it's a card that I've never owned really. I think I may have had one or two of these back in the day. But I would have traded it off because I wasn't a white player and I wasn't collecting the set at the time when I was playing. I was just trying to get cards I needed for my decks, and so I never would have kept a white card because I never played white, and this card was valuable even then, so I would have traded it for like a dual lands or something I could use for my decks. Glad to have it. Like I said, it's a key card to have in that Arabian Nights set, and it's popular. People love the card. Now, I love the fact that you've got Kaja Folio artwork here. Between her and Phil Folio, they're my favorite Magic the Gathering artist. I collect a lot of Phil Folio artwork and Kaja Folio artwork. They did in comic books. They did, traditional comic books. They did artwork in the Dungeons and Dragons magazines back in the day. Just great artist. Always a playful demeanor. And I love the artwork they had for Magic cards. And I know they don't do artwork for Magic anymore, but I just love when I see their art on a card. It's like such a time capsule for me to see that. And last but not least is a card that I hated playing against. It's probably the card, one of the cards I could never beat playing a Weenie deck or a black deck. And that was Mirror Universe, because obviously, if you beat someone down to near 0, they just switch life points from you and just kill you real easily. And that happened quite a bit. So this card is pretty powerful back in the day. Today it may not be, powerful compared to what it was. But this was a pretty big card. I mean, Mirror Universe at one point was probably top 5 card, top 10 card maybe in all of Legends. So it definitely has a lot of usability back in, especially as a card people would sideboard in, especially against decks that were heavy on, like a horde winning kind of, burn decks. This card was effective. So it saw a lot of tournament play when I was, playing, and it's got great artwork. And again, you got Filfolio artwork that even brings it up higher on the list for me. But it's worth quite a bit of money, and Mirror Universe is one of those kind of like, just in the Magic pantheon. This is one of the cool cards that people want to have. So I'm glad I have it. I've never owned a Mirror Universe. It's a card I hated playing against. Just hated it, because I could never, I had shatters on my deck. I had ways to try to kill it, but, by turn 6, by turn 7, by turn 8, I'm trying to kill them. They should be dead by now. And so if I'm having to play against a Mirror Universe, that means my deck didn't work. And now I've got this thing out there just kind of laughing at me. And, if I can't get rid of it when it comes back out, I'm pretty much not going to get rid of it. So it just made my life miserable. So I never owned the card. But now that I'm pretty much not playing anymore, it's, I realize it's a cool card to own. So that is my little Magic the Gathering pickup, and here's kind of the 3 big cards I picked up. And I know I'm not really a Magic channel, but these are very nostalgic for me, and I just love being able to pick up some cards from my youth when I played Magic when I was at Cornell. And these are cards that I have great nostalgia for, and it's just fun. So I hope you guys like it. A little bit different for my channel, but let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.